Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks, the narrators that perform them, and the authors that write the stories. Including a special series with Narrator Shane East, the Audiobook Lovin Podcast is brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Narrator Aaron Shedlock is here with us today. Welcome, Aaron.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
So far, so good. Thanks. And thanks for taking the time to converse with me all about audiobooks and what you do. For those who may not know you, why don't you start by sharing a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating, and how you became a narrator?
Ooh, there's a lot of questions all rolled up into one. I've been narrating for 4 years last month. I celebrated my 4th year doing audiobooks last month. Been doing voiceover work for, I really wish I kept track of when I started doing this stuff, like 10 years maybe?
Wow.
10 years? Yeah. Yeah, about 10 years. What were the other questions?
A little bit about yourself.
Narrator's mind at work. A little bit about myself.
Yeah.
I have a pretty cool, pretty strange job. I get paid to read books for a living, really good books. And I've got 2 dogs. I have a cat. I am married. I have a wife. That's about it. We just got Disney Plus, I think, like 2 days ago. So I have been immersed in Disney, in the world of Disney Plus, watching old X-Men cartoons, watching old Spider-Man stuff. I stayed up kind of late last night watching some of that stuff and got up super early to start work today and then worked really hard and was taking a couple of breaks in between watching some cartoons.
Yeah, I was looking at that and I'm going, nah, it's okay. I have Netflix and Hulu. And then I noticed, I saw that the Gargoyles is also part of that. And I'm going, gosh, damn it. I'm going to have to get it.
Yeah, the entire Disney afternoon is on there. So that's like my teens and late teens and early 20s. Mm-hmm. They brought all that stuff back and put it up on there. Totally worth it.
Yeah, you know, when cartoons were good.
Yeah, they told stories.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's actually nice to talk to you because we met back in Shameless at the BookCon, which was last month. And so it's fun to meet you there. And by the way, your wife, side note, is awesome. I love your wife.
She's pretty cool. She's a bit more eye-catching than I am. She has a much bolder personality. Mm-hmm. Much more outward.
Yeah.
I think I'm more like internal and she's more external.
That tends to be a good match, you know. Usually that happens. Yeah. But so traditionally, book signings and conventions has been a place where the authors and the readers can kind of connect and get things autographed and signed. But the narrators are starting to come to these events. How has it been, the experience of attending these conventions and book signings?
The experience, it's changed. Even just from last year, the fans are way more into it this year than they were last year. Last year was, you know, I had a couple of, like, some diehard people that were really like into the stuff that I do. They made it a point to come out and find me and have me sign books. But this year was totally different. This year was a lot of people. They wanted pictures. They wanted to hang out. They actually wanted to chit chat. Some couldn't even chit chat, which was kind of funny. They were nervous about being there. And I had to poke and prod to get them to talk to me. So not in a bad way.
Yeah. You know, it's nerve-wracking when you guys, I mean, I would get like that a little bit with the authors, but I've developed the relationships via, you know, social media and reviewing their books and stuff. And now to be able to talk to you guys when we're listening in our headsets to the stories that you're sharing with us, but also the type of romance that some of us listen to. And then we're like, oh yeah, hi, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same. It's the same for us. Mm-hmm. I did the weekend after Shameless, I did Love in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And we had, I think, 16 or 18 narrators attended that with me. And we had 2 tables. We were in the back corner. It was very, very busy. We were very, very popular. Really, made me feel pretty good. Made me feel like a special,
Mm-hmm.
person to have that many people take time out of their day and come out and say hi and talk to us and ask us questions and have us sign things and take pictures and chit chat, and it was a good time. And then afterwards, we even got to go and have a sit down traditional kind of hang out and have some drinks and chit chat some more with people, and people kind of let their hair down a little bit and weren't so
Mm-hmm.
nervous.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited and I'm glad that you guys are starting to attend these events more often. I hope that the events themselves, the people that are organizing them, see the value in having the narrators attend and be part of that group. So it's not only like one of those where it's just a little special thing, or they sometimes don't even advertise them. So I really do hope that the conventions and the events, see that, and that way you guys can go to more.
Yeah. I think they are. I think they are. Especially the Love in Vegas one.
Mm-hmm.
They comped all of our tickets to kind of encourage us to come. The only thing that we had to pay for was the hotel and the airfare, getting there. So that's helpful for us when we're doing, when you're going to like 3, 4, 5, 6, conventions a year. If you're having to pay for all of the, the convention fees and all that stuff, that it starts to get really expensive. And then you have to get more picky and choosy about where you're going. I mean, it's bad enough with the flights and stuff, but no, everyone is getting a lot more supportive. They're bringing us in. They're giving us more room to work. We had 2 tables this year at Lovin Vegas instead of the one small table last year. There were 6 of us last year, and there were 16 or 18 of us this year. So it's growing, and there's definitely a value, because now because there's 2 different parts of the industry now. It's not just books, it's not just authors. Now it's authors, and there's also actors kind of involved that are performing their books for audio. And then you've got other people that are coming in too that are expanding, the entire situation. You've got the bloggers, and you've got you've got book reviewers, you've got people that are just a lot of different types of people all coming there with different reasons, but all for the same thing, all to celebrate the books and the people kind of surrounding this little industry. So it's a good time.
And I think definitely Love in Vegas is on my radar for next year. Just got to save for the flight. It's tend to be a bit more expensive. But again, this year I
Yeah.
really wanted to go, and it wasn't because of the authors. It was because of the narrators that were attending.
There were a bunch of us.
Yeah. I think also too, it's the reason why I love audiobooks is I've discovered a lot more new authors because of you guys. So once I find a
Yeah.
narrator that I love, I kind of see, well, what else are they, listening to, and what else are they, narrating and stuff like that. So I'll pick up an author or a book that I may not normally have picked up because of the fact that you guys are narrating it.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's a really good. I did the same thing. When I was just listening to audiobooks, I had a few of my favorites, and anytime they released anything, it didn't matter what kind of a book it was, I usually picked it up and listened to it. And sometimes I liked the stories, and sometimes I didn't. But it's nice having an extra way to. There's so many books out there. It's really hard to,
Yeah.
you can go through and scroll through covers all day. But it's really nice to have like an extra avenue to kind of help you pick and choose what you want to listen to next. And if it's a narrator, that's great. If it's an author, that's great. I'll read anything by certain authors, and I'll listen to anything by certain narrators. My list is a lot bigger now. But the biggest reason, one of the biggest catalysts for bringing the narrators out into the world of the book conventions is oral fixation. And Lydia Rella, she is a huge proponent. She loves her narrators, and she's been pushing for years now through the group, but also through a lot of the conventions to try and bring more of us out there. So I have to give her a shout out because she's just done some amazing things with her little group.
Yeah, no, she's great. I love her.
So all the people that are on the sidelines are still like a huge part of this industry. It's not just authors, and now authors and actors, and now authors and actors and bloggers and reviewers, now authors and actors, bloggers, reviewers, and also fans that just really, really love the industry and are, they have these huge groups of people that they've put together. So they're kind of like wine sommeliers. They're cultivating these groups of people. So if you're into romance, you just go to this group and hey, recommendations. I'll give you 30 recommendations of what everyone is loving and listening to.
Yeah, it's like, how much time do you have?
Yeah, it's a community, and I love that part of it. It's great. So many people all have their role within the industry that's all helping all of us out at the same time. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yes, I love the community, and that Oral Fixation is a great group because while my family and friends are very supportive of what I do, when I try to explain to them about a book that I'm listening to or this my excitement for the next release, they all look at me like, "Mm-hmm, sure,"
I
you know.
know it's tough.
I know, and so
Yeah.
yeah. But when I get to talk to you guys and or like the members of the different groups, or when I go to these conventions and events, they're like, "These are my people. They know exactly what I'm talking about." Speaking of books, how do you prepare when you finally get a book to start narrating?
When I finally get a book, let's see. I try. This is what I try to do. This is my goal, which is I'm still working on this. I try to prep. I prep my books like crazy. All my books like crazy. So with how busy I am, because I have books. Right now I'm booked out till June right now, so I book out really, really far.
Wow.
And the problem with that is week to week to week, every week I've got one or two like brand new books that I have to look at. So what I'm trying to do is prep early, like prep weeks in advance. And the problem with prepping weeks in advance is once I get myself all prepped and I get my head wrapped around a book, I know exactly how I want to, or I have the idea in my head of how I want to work the book, how I want to narrate it, how I want to perform it. If I'm still working on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books until I get to it, it's just going to become a convoluted mess in my head. Because you can only focus on so much information, and I put a lot into every single book that I work on. So what I do now is I have recording windows, and I'll have generally I give myself about a week per book or per 2 books. I generally work on 1 to 2 books a week, generally. So I give myself a week to prep the book. That allows me to read the book once. That's usually, I spend one day reading the book. I make a list of all the characters, make a list of all their personality traits, all this little actory kind of goofy stuff, so I can helps me get into the characters a little easier when I'm in the booth. I prep my books. I look up any weird names that I'm not familiar with or weird words that I'm not familiar with. Sometimes books take place in very specific places, and it's a really good idea to maybe find all the websites you can about that place, or at the very least maybe watch a tourism video or some kind of videos about the place from natives. And I bring that up because there are specific things about specific locales where they have specific pronunciations.
Yes.
Like if you went to New York and you ask somebody in New York, "Hey, where's Houston Street?" People in New York will look at you like you're an idiot because it's not Houston Street, it's Houston Street. Mm-hmm. And every little place around the country and around the world has similar types of little local things. So if the location becomes a character in the book, then I treat it like a character, and I'll do a whole bunch of research on the location just so I get familiar with the pronunciation, the streets, dialect, that kind of stuff, so I can kind of apply that to my characters and stuff. And then once I get all that stuff done and I have all my notes, I'm usually narrating with a co-narrator with a lot of the romance stuff because a lot of it's dual POV. Then I'll share those notes with the narrator and we'll email back and forth a little bit. And then once we're all set up, then I'll jump in the booth and I'll start recording. And when I start recording, I record until it's finished, and then I jump on to my next project. But at the same time, I'm doing stupid stuff, business stuff like bookkeeping and that kind of thing.
All the admin stuff that sucks, right?
Yeah, all the admin stuff, and I'm not very good at that stuff. I mean, I'm a very organized person, but I still don't like doing that kind of stuff. It's no fun. There's nothing creative about it. It's just
Yeah.
Gotta
be done though.
Gotta be done though. That's really important. If you can take care of that part of your business and keep that part of your business flowing really well, then it makes everything else so much easier. But that's generally how I prep. What I'm trying to do is prep early because I've ran into a couple of situations where sometimes the book is more complex than what I realized. And either there's a bunch of pronunciations or there's some books have foreign dialogue So I have to hire people to actually record bits of foreign dialogue so I can listen to it over and 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 over. And then try and mimic it, try and replicate it, which just happened a few weeks ago in a book. I had so much foreign dialogue. I mean, I was speaking German and French and Hindi and Celtic Britannic and Gaelic. So what I'm trying to do is prep my books a little earlier and give myself a little bit more kind of leg room to be prepared for the book. You know, that's what I'm trying for. But it's like each way that I work has upsides and downsides. You know, I like once I get started on a book, once I start the prep process, I really like to stay super hyper focused on that book until it's done. I don't like to step out of it because it changes things. You know, it's hard to explain, but it changes how I perform the material. The closer I am to it, the more connected, the more in my head it is, and the longer I've been thinking about it, the more it gets so much better.
Well, yeah, because it's when you're performing that character and you're getting to know that and all the other characters that you're voicing at the same time. So I can only imagine what that would be like if you were doing multiple books at once and you're going, no, wrong voice.
Yeah. Everything just kind of starts getting a little convoluted, and I don't like working in that place. I really envy actors that film actors and television and screen actors and theater actors. I really envy them sometimes because they get to focus on one character. I've only been able to do that for one book where I got to focus on one character, and I got to put all my time and energy into just this one character, and that was Payback with Amy Dawes, because that was a multicast, so we had 4 different narrators, and my part in the book was Roan de Walt. He was a South African soccer player, and I just got to be Roan de Walt for a week, and it was fantastic.
I'm going to admit that's actually the first book that I listened to where you narrated. So that's how I found, yes.
I'm curious, where are you from? Because you have a very particular accent.
I do?
Where are you from? Are you from New Jersey or New York, or what part of the East Coast are you from?
Actually, I was born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Were you really? Did you live up north?
Nope.
Like, where did you get your Jersey? Because you have a bit of a Jersey accent.
I do.
Say narrator again.
Narrator?
Yeah, say narrator.
Narrator.
Yeah, narrator. Narrator. Yeah. Yeah. You got a little bit of my Aunt Lucille. She's from New York, but she spent a lot of time in Jersey, so she's a narrator.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, sometimes I pick up the accents. Like for our honeymoon, we went to Boston, and so to this day, and it's been like 18 years. When I say car, I say car. I can't go car. You know, I just kind of that's the one word that I just picked up, and it still stays the same. I'm like you know. When I go to Texas to visit family, sometimes a little twang kicks in. But again, that's the whole thing about accents and how people love them. Never been told I have a Jersey accent before. I have a friend from Jersey. I'm gonna have to tell her that. She's gonna have a kick.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, it's not full on. You know, it's not Jersey Housewives kind of accent.
Oh,
but
God, no.
You definitely have a very particular lilt. I wouldn't have guessed you were actually born and raised in Miami.
Yeah, born and raised there. Of course, there's a bunch of different dialects in Miami from a culture perspective down there.
Oh yeah. It's a smorgasbord of people.
It is. But you mentioned Payback, and I was sharing how that was my first book that I read. That was that you narrated, and that character had a specific accent, which I've been told by other narrators that it's really difficult.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
It is. You want to share a little bit about that? Like, how did you went about?
Yeah, I did a bunch of prep. I did 2 weeks of prep working on that character, which is unusual. I usually don't spend that much time. If it's an accent that I really want, well, the thing is that particular book, like I said before, I just had the one character to work on. So it made sense to put forth the extra effort into, it was a unique accent. It's a South African, slightly Cape Townish accent. So it made sense to put forth all the effort because I didn't have anything else to think and worry about. I could just really focus 100% on that character and how he sounded and how he responded. And just his sound and his feel. And South African, it's a difficult accent unless you've either been there, have lived there, or know people from there, because it's a perfect blend of British, a very particular style of British, and Australian and New Zealand. And I say New Zealand because there's a couple of little things in their pronunciations that are more New Zealand than Australian, so I kind of include New Zealand in there. But it's a perfect blend of British and Australian, and it's really, really easy to slip more into the Australian side with your trying to think of the phrases. My mind is going completely blank now. Between British and Australian, I can't think of it, but it's the perfect blend between those two, and it's a fine line. You either start drifting more towards British or you start drifting more towards Australian, and you really need to focus and kind of stay in that middle ground to keep the accent believable and to keep them unique. Otherwise, people start saying, "What is he from Australia or is he from England? Like, which one is it?" If you do it right, usually they're like, "Oh, he doesn't sound like either. He sounds like he's from somewhere else." And then you figure it out in the story. Oh, he's from South Africa. That's a South African accent. So there's a lot of little things. I watched a whole bunch of South African movies. I watched some South African TV shows. I had a friend of mine that lives in South Africa. He lives in Joburg, in Johannesburg. And he visited us a couple of years ago, so I still had a lot of his accent stuck in my head and a lot of the terms that he used. Like is a very good word to pick up on the South African accent, because you've got you have the Australian like, then you have the British, which is like, which is more of a like, and then you have South African, which is like that in the middle, and it's a like. So there's little like differences, and so I spent a couple weeks and I figured out all those differences. My dog's going crazy. My wife just got home from work, so all these little differences, and if you work hard enough on it, then it flows really well, and then people like it, and then I feel good because I feel like I did a good job, and all that work was appreciated.
Yeah, no, I love the book. It's I think it's one of my favorites that she's written so far. And you guys did a phenomenal job, and I love the multicasting that she decided to do on it. We were talking about accents, and I know that from a listener's perspective, they love it. I love it. What is your favorite accent to perform?
I don't really have a favorite accent. The one that I drift into the easiest at this point, because I spent so much time working on them, would be Irish and Scottish, South African, any kind of a Southern accent, because I lived in the South for a long time, so I had a lot of experience with those accents. British, I'm getting more into British accents, but I'm trying to piece it apart because I want to learn the specific British accents, because there isn't just one British accent. There's what is there, like 8 or 12? Even,
Yeah,
maybe?
I think so. Yeah.
There's several British accents. You got it. That country is basically like a mini version of the U.S. So
Yep.
there's different accents in different parts of it, and there's actually even more variety there than there is in the American side with the accents that we have, because their culture has shifted quite a bit over the years. So they've got French influences, and they've got Gaelic influences, and they've got there's not really any Germanic stuff, but you've got some Viking influences. So you've got a little bit of Swedish and some Scandinavian and some just some other stuff. So I want to get more into the British accents and get better at those, because right now I've only got a couple. I've got my British-ish sounding guy who sounds like a Jason Statham, and that's because I've seen so many action films. Or I watch a lot of Guy Ritchie films, so I pull a lot of accents from there, and it's always a very particular London, Suffolk accent, because it's all those movies are all like underworld mafia, that kind of stuff. So that's a goal. That's a goal for 2020, is to improve and learn a bit more about. I don't really have a favorite accent though, because I like the human voice, and I like how different. It's like a musical instrument to me. At least that's how I picture it. That's how I picture people. The way that people speak, and it's the one thing that's truly unique about everybody that nobody even realizes. Everyone has a unique voice.
True.
You know?
On the opposite spectrum of that, what is the hardest accent to perform so far for you?
Hardest accent to perform? Anything. Good question. Anything Asian, because it's not necessarily, it's different. And I think it's different because being from America and growing up the time period that I grew up in, and growing up on Kung Fu films, it's been parodied too much here in America. So the only reference point that I have for Asian accents are based off of parodies, which are horrible.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't done, it's not my favorite accent to do, because I can't really wrap my head around the actual true accent, because I haven't spent a lot of time with anybody, with anybody from China, from Japan, from Korea. Some from Korea, because I've had some friends from Korea. But their accent, I mean, they learn English before I learned a second language, so their English is almost like accentless.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like there's no accent for the most part. Not that it's not my favorite, but
those are the hardest.
I don't like. Yeah, it's definitely the hardest, and it's because of my past experiences kind of applied to it, which make it more difficult for me to actually pull into those accents. Because the last thing I want to do is a parody. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And if I start doing an accent, start to sound like a parody, like I'm almost like I'm making fun of it, then I just get frustrated with myself. There's a guy that I hire for all of my really, really complicated stuff. His PhD, I'm not even sure what his PhD is in. It's something to do with language, but he speaks 26 languages. He can write and read over 30.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he used to write. He came up with the Beltier language for the show, the sci-fi series, The Expanse.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. There's a specific language that is spoken by people that are actually born in space, and it's called Beltier, and it's a mix between Cajun and a couple of other things. Yeah.
Wow.
He's a pretty cool guy. He's the one that helps me out when I have to figure out when I have these long passages of Celtic, Britannic, and Gaelic that I have to figure out how to say. I shoot him an email, because he's brilliant. He'll just record the stuff and give it back to me.
That's awesome. So I'm going to say, according to Audible, because I've learned that I have to say that because the numbers usually don't match up as far as how many audiobooks you have out or about to be released versus what they're cataloging. So according to Audible, you have a total of 139 books already released and some that are in pre-order. And of which of those 139, 109 are in romance.
Is that how many, really?
Yeah, according to Audible, yeah.
I thought it would be more than that. Sometimes they get their stuff a little backwards. Yeah, I'm drifting into some other genres, but like romance is still like the big deal for me. But some of the romance are like sci-fi romance, and some of the romance are paranormal. Sometimes it depends on the book, and I don't know, like who was on duty at the old Audible at the time, because some of the books don't even get into the romance category, and they are the romance authors.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times, or I've even seen when their math is off, and I'm like, in one thing it says this number, and they're off by like 5, and I'm going, someone needs to get the calculator. But still, it's the majority of your books fall within the romance genre. Is there a specific subgenre in romance that you have a favorite to perform, rather?
Subgenre of romance.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I really like the nice guy stories, but those aren't very popular with the fans, and I realize that. Ladies, and I mean, everyone loves a redemptive story of of the more assholey alpha characters. But my favorite is contemporary, and I would say the nice guy romances. Superfan was one. That was one of my favorite nice guy romances. One of my favorite books because I love the character,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a hockey book, so I'm a big fan of hockey. So I've done a couple, 1, 2, 3 hockey books, 2 hockey books, 3.
So that's the second book of yours that I listened to, and it had been on my
Was
read.
it?
Yeah, that's that entire series I need to catch up. But I started with Superfan, and I
Yeah.
love that book. I love that character. So yeah, I do like the nice guy stuff. I mean, I'm all
He's
for
a
the
super nice
alpha.
guy. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like a breath of fresh air for me because I've done so many alphas, and
Mm-hmm.
and some of the some of the alphas are nicer than others. They're not always these huge pricky alpha guys. So sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just like a lot of the biker books I do. There's a lot of redemption that goes into some of those alphas.
Mm-hmm. I loved Superfan, and that's from Serena Bowen, and that's definitely a nice guy. But I liked it because it was a little less dramatic, from a drama perspective of the guy being such an asshole. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he was. I don't know. He was very down to earth. I like that. Yeah.
And also the hockey thing, I'm actually kind of getting a little more into it. I have a friend that we work together, and she loves hockey, and I love seeing her face when she starts talking about her team. So she's been teaching me stuff, and it's great because now when I read the book or listen to it, I'm like, I know that term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that too. I have to admit, when I do hockey books, I was like, because I'm not a sports guy. I'm not into like football, basketball, baseball. I used to be into baseball when I was a kid. Used to play baseball, but I drifted away from it once it got to a certain point. I was much more into drawing and writing, and I was digging into the creative side of myself. So the sports side and the more competitive sports side of myself kind of just didn't. It just never really developed. So. But I like hockey. I got into hockey later in life. So whenever I actually read a book that has some stuff that I recognize, I'm the same way. I'm like, hey, I know what that means.
Yeah.
I know
Mm-hmm.
what that means.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fun. Speaking of fun, I like to play a little game with my guests. And
Yeah.
yes, no, but
I
it's
just played a game last week with some other people, and it was called Stump the Narrator. And it was
oh,
actually pretty good. I actually did really good. I thought I was going to fail miserably at it. I thought it was the biggest, I don't know if it's like this for many other people, but for me, I put so much into each book that as soon as I start prepping a new book, all the information from all my previous books has to kind of go away. I need to make room for this onslaught of information about to shove in my head about the project I'm working on. And surprisingly enough, cause like what they did was they read passages to me, and then I had to figure out what book it came from, and they were old books. Some of them were old books. And it's surprising, like, how much of that stuff is still in my head. I just need a couple of little, I think it's more just the writing style. Once I figure out the writing style, I'm like, oh, I know who that is. That's this book. I did pretty well. I got 4.5 out of 5 right.
that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
this
So,
game that I like to play, it's also about getting to know you a little bit better, and it's called Would You Rather.
oh, I've played this, but there's generally like alcohol or other stuff involved.
Actually, someone told me that I should do that. Have you guys like drinking wine and me? And I'm going, no, no, no. I make enough mistakes on my own when I'm sober. I'm not going to be doing
Yeah.
this while while I'm on, tipsy drinking mead. No, thank you. Um, okay, so if you're ready, I can start with the questions.
I'm ready. I was born ready. Let's do this.
Awesome. All right. Would you rather be an unimportant character in the last movie you saw or an unimportant character in the last book you read?
Oh, nobody wants to be an unimportant character. That's a hard question. That's like, would you rather lop off your own toe or lop off your own finger? Like, I'd rather not
Well,
lop off either.
well, it depends on the last movie you saw or the last book you read. Because
That's
sometimes those.
true. Last movie I saw was, I'm trying to think. No, well, I would rather be an unimportant character in the last movie I saw because it was a sequel to, I think, House of Flying Daggers, so it was like a kung fu film. I was doing research for a book. So I would rather be an unimportant character in there because the unimportant characters in those movies don't die.
Yeah.
And they're not beat up by the kung fu masters because they're unimportant. They just run away screaming. So.
Would you rather have to read aloud every word you read or sing everything you say out loud?
Oh. Honestly, man, I would do both.
Yeah.
I already sing everything I say out loud. You guys don't know that because I don't record that stuff, but I do. I sing a lot. Man, sing everything I say or read aloud everything I read. Probably sing because singing is more. Oh, you get tired of singing faster though. Probably read out loud. Yeah, I would read out loud. That would actually get me better at what I do. So, but I would still sing. I mean, I would probably just do both.
Yeah, that's true.
Do like a 50-50 split. Like today, I'm going to read everything out loud. Tomorrow, I'm going to sing everything I say. Tomorrow, I would sing everything I would say.
Oh, it's funny. Would you rather always be 10 minutes late or always be 20 minutes early?
20 minutes early.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Yeah. Always. That says a lot about. That's a big. That's that's a big thing. If you're always 10 minutes late, which like I always am, generally, but I always leave super early, so my 10 minutes late is like 5 minutes early, which is like, that's like the cutoff for being a respectful person. But yeah, I would rather be 20 minutes early.
Okay.
Because you got a phone with you, so I can just I can play video games or I can Facebook for 20 minutes, no problem.
True. Yep.
And it'll give you time to focus and relax. Whatever it is that you're doing. If it's like a job interview or like an audition or something like that, it'll give you 20 minutes to relax.
Yeah, get in the groove for sure.
Yeah.
Would you rather know the history of every object you touched or be able to talk to animals?
I don't know. I would pick talk to animals, but what if the conversations are horrible? What if that was the thing that you picked and the conversations are bad? Like they're just bad. Like they're always negative.
Oh, boy.
Or it's like talking to a 2-year-old. Now you have this ability to talk to every 2-year-old on the planet with her.
Oh, goodness. I guess that's just
don't know.
the risk that you run, yeah?
Yeah, I would probably want to know the history of every object I touch, just because me in my own head, I would overthink that decision to the point of not making the decision. I can't do this. I can't. Yeah. I think because that sounds like something a genie would give you. Right? What's your wish? And you better be super specific because I can make it suck for you. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the things, the history of the things. That would be actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that would
awkward
be cool.
Sometimes too. If you went over to somebody's house and grabbed something and whoop, put that back down.
Yeah. That can make for interesting conversations over at parties and events. Yeah, that's for sure. Would you rather have unlimited international first class tickets or never have to pay for food at a restaurant?
Unlimited first class. I like how you added the first class in there. That makes traveling so much better.
Yep.
God, I think that's the only reason why I would like to be wealthy. Well, actually, there's a couple of reasons why. Is I would like to be able to travel a private plane. Would be the ultimate, but first class would be a close second. Just because traveling sucks so much, and also the other thing would be I would want to hire somebody to just make sure I never had to think about food ever again. just make me some amazing food, and then me never have to actually think and figure out what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight. That is a big problem for me.
Oh, wow. You and I are alike in that case.
Yeah, it drives me crazy. I just don't want to. It's almost like getting pestered. Your body's pestered, like, hey, you need some food. But I don't really feel like thinking about it. I'm busy. I'm doing stuff.
Would you rather be able to teleport anywhere or be able to read minds?
Man, if I had first class tickets everywhere, I wouldn't need to teleport.
Okay.
I don't know if I would want to read. I think I would probably pick read minds because then that would make me a superhero. Well, teleporting would make a superhero too.
Yeah.
That's a really good superhero power. But if you could read minds, then you could be like Professor Xavier. But I think the reality of this situation is you would get bored within a month, and you would either become a supervillain, like you would either get to a point where you would just start figuring out how to accumulate as much wealth and power as possible, like it would go to your head, or you would just realize that nobody thinks about anything. Nobody really thinks about anything. This is so boring. Everyone is thinking Pokemon right now.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it seems like it would be super cool, but then reality of it is people only think about Facebook. People only think about Twitter. Oh my goodness.
It could be bad.
Is it like surface thoughts, or is it deep down? Is it like, do people actually sit down and deep down think all the time, or is it just, yeah. Man, you're like an evil genie right now.
Well, wait until the next one. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
Would you rather never have to clean a bathroom again, or never have to do dishes again?
Honestly, those don't bother me. I don't mind doing either one of those things. I'm not necessarily like a super neat freak, but I clean. I don't mind cleaning at all. I don't have kids. If I had kids, I would probably say I'll never clean another bathroom for the rest of my life. If I had kids, if I had boys,
oh boy,
boys are some dirty little shits. They can be. I've been to people's houses where they have a house full of boys, and you go in the bathroom, and you're like, whoa, your toilet needs a shave.
Well, I've been on the opposite spectrum, where I've been to people's houses that have kids, and the dishes are like all over the place, and their sink is overflowing too. And I'm going, oh my God! It's because they grab all the stuff. So, oof. Yeah.
I would just say bathrooms because that one is like super easy. I don't mind doing dishes. I do dishes as I do them. Because we're all like adults in the place, but I'm the only one that really does that.
Okay.
So, in this area, I'm the cleaning force in the house. So I do all the vacuuming and the mopping and the cleaning and the dusting. And my wife does laundry though. She crushes laundry. That's because I got banned from doing laundry because I don't really like separate things.
Oh boy.
I do, but I do. It's because when I start doing like mundane kind of things, like cleaning is pretty mundane. I don't put a lot of effort into thinking about what I'm doing when I'm doing that kind of stuff. I just go off into either I listen to an audiobook or I'm thinking about something. So my mind wanders. So when I'm doing laundry, I'll just start putting stuff in. I separate darks and lights, but I don't really separate like types of fabrics, and this should never be washed, and these bras only have to be in bags all the time. I usually just take the big clump of clothes and put it in, and I put the stuff in and I wash it because when I was single and I was living alone, my wardrobe was simple. It was like dark colors.
Yep.
There wasn't a big variety of colors. All the clothes basically looked all the same, where I had a lot of black t-shirts and a lot of black long sleeve shirts and a lot of black pants and a lot of jeans, and I had khakis. If I had a job that required khakis, the khakis would get washed separate.
Yep.
But now washing my wife's clothes is much different. They just require a lot more thought.
Yeah.
And a lot more care. So she does the laundry. And I do a lot of other stuff. So.
Cool. It's great that you
learned a lot in that question.
Yeah, that's why I love this game. You get to know a little bit more, and also as far as like answering, I've had some people that are like just one or two, and then others that kind of give me more deep dives, which I always love when they do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there another one of those? Do you have more? Would you rather?
Yeah, I have two more.
Oh.
Okay.
Two more.
Two more. Okay. Would you rather be able to control fire or water?
Oh, fire. I would want to control fire. Water, I don't know. Water just doesn't seem like as much fun unless I was like super into surfing. Fire. I would want to control fire because you could do some fun stuff with that. Could you imagine like your Halloween display?
Oh, that would be awesome.
If you controlled fire.
Yep.
Actually, if I controlled water, though, then I could go outside without an umbrella, because I do not like being out in the rain. I don't mind being wet. I just don't like being dripped on. It triggers something. I don't know if I'm on the spectrum or what. I just don't like being dripped on. It's like somebody tapping you on the forehead constantly, like, hey, fire. I'm going to go fire.
Fire. Okay. Last one. Would you rather have a golden voice or a silver tongue?
What's a silver tongue? What do you consider a silver tongue? What is that?
It's like when you can kind of be very eloquent and, speak.
Oh, like Shakespearean? Like,
well, no, just like be able to express yourself versus sometimes how I do it. The very jaggedy.
I would go silver tongue on that one.
Yeah.
If I could command language enough to the point where I could be very eloquent. And I always find that really interesting when you meet people that are really good speakers, not in how they speak or how their voice sounds, but how they express ideas and how they don't use ums and ohs and likes.
Yes.
How they take a minute, they get the idea in their head, and then they express it. That is truly, truly, truly impressive to me. Because when you go to places like England and Ireland, their school systems are a lot different than ours. The basic ability to communicate their basic ability to communicate their thoughts is so much higher than ours. Like, see, I just did it right there. I'm like, I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those, like, I know mine is like, so. That's the word. Yeah, it's like, so. And I'm like going, I did it again.
I did the same kind of stuff because, I did the same kind of stuff. I grew up with a stutter, very, very strong stutter, and it took a lot of speech therapy to work around that and to be a lot more fluent. And when I started doing voiceover and started doing audiobooks in particular, I had to basically take all the stuff that I did speech therapy for when I was a kid, so I could learn how to speak like a normal person. And not like a normal person, that's mean. So I could speak comfortably with people without being, overly shy and stuff. It was all based around cues, and I would always use words to basically jumpstart my stuff to get around the types of sounds and the types of vowels and the types of consonants that would make me stutter. So I just figured out a way to work around stuttering. I always still stuttered, but I figured out a way. I learned a way to work around it so I could speak more fluently. When I started reading audiobooks and doing the voiceover stuff, but audiobooks in particular, couldn't do any of that stuff. You have to read what's on the page. You can't change how you say things so I can say it better. So I had to go back through, and before I even recorded my first audiobook, I had to basically relearn how to speak with fluency. It's a lot of work, but I did it, and I'm glad I did. So I don't know what we were talking about, which triggered that.
We were talking about if you would rather have the golden voice or the silver tongue.
The silver tongue, yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah. That'd be mine as well. Aaron, before we go, can you tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on, if you're able to share, of course, and then what comes next for you?
I can't share a whole bunch of it because a lot of this stuff, they're not necessarily like NDAs, and they're not super secret, but the book I'm working on right now is Wicked Thorn for Kim Lorraine. It is a novella about vampires. The book is out because she was selling it, so I've got the book right here because she gave it to me when I was in Vegas, and she even signed it for me.
Nice.
That's the book I'm working on right now, and that is basically prepping me for, I've got a series that I'm working on with her later next year through one of my publishers, through Tantor. They picked her up. Next week, I am doing a book for Jean St. James with the amazing Teddy Hamilton, and it is crossing the line. It is motorcycle police romance, police MM romance. And I'm super excited about that. I haven't read that book yet, but I start my prep for that on next Monday. Now I'll be getting into that. And I have a new pseudonym, but it's not romance related, so I usually don't talk about it in the romance routes. I did the reverse. I narrate romance under my real name, and a pseudonym for other genres like sci-fi and fantasy. But I have a book that I just wrapped for Podium Publishing. I wrapped it on Monday. And it's a Chinese mythology wuxia book, wuxia xianxia book, which is like House of Flying Daggers, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Those kind of cool kung fu stories. Chinese mythology, Japanese mythology, that kind of stuff. It's really, really good. I enjoyed that one. I finished up the third book in the Catherine Cowell series, in her Beautifully Broken series, Beautifully Broken Spirit. I'm not sure when that one's coming out. I think that the pre-order is up on Audible right now for that one. I think the second book in that series just came out last week. Really, really good series. She's a really good writer. She's a new writer for me. I got into her series a few months back and was really impressed with her work.
Good to know.
What else do I have coming out? I do have some more sci-fi and some more fantasy coming out soon in December. The second book in the Time Shard series by Dana Fredstein and David Fitzgerald. That book is called Shatter War. That's the book that I did all the crazy dialects and all 60 plus characters and a whole bunch of accents in that book.
Okay.
And finishing in the new year, I recorded that with Sierra Klein. About that one. My schedule is like just a wall of projects. I did one of the love letters in Tanya Edie's, her compilation, Filthy. I did Filthy by, was that the name of the book or was that the name of my letter?
No, that was the name of the book.
Down, kind of funny in my calendar. Okay.
Yeah, it's Filthy. Yeah.
Oh, I think the letter I wrote was to Fluffy. I think that was mine was called Fluffy. I think that was. It was written by Julia Kent, and it was a love letter that's part of that series, which is pretty cool, man. It's really nice to be lumped in with all those super awesome narrators and authors. I like that. That was a shorter project, so something I could do in a day, but it was a lot of fun to be part of a much larger whole. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on my list of to listen. Haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Really good. Really fun. Savior by Fiona Cole. That was a recent book. I recorded that one in September. That one just came out though, I think recently. That was really, really good. I'm looking at my calendar right now and I'm realizing that I didn't book any days off for myself.
Oh no.
For the next 4 months.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, we'll have a lot of things to listen to then, at least, you know.
Yeah. Almost. I'm about to hit the 150 mark. I'm trying to figure out exactly what book is going to cause it. It's hard to figure out because I have pseudos now, so I have to start adding. And one of the books, that 139 that you're seeing on Audible, one of those books is a short story that I wrote.
Oh.
So one of the 139 is mine, and that was actually narrated by McLeod Andrews. A little short story that I wrote. The only thing I've ever indie published had put out into the waiting arms of the world.
We'll have to check that one out.
It's up there. It's on the old Amazon. It's an audiobook too. It is called The Promise. It's a suspense. It's a quick little hour long, or I think less than an hour. Quick little short story. It's a character that came from a much, much larger story that I wrote. That was just got too big and too convoluted for me to ever really get back into and finish. But he was one of the main characters in that story. He was a super creepy guy. Not creepy, but super just a strange guy. He was just a hitman kind of fellow.
Oh, okay. Cool. Definitely adding that to my list.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me know if you like it.
Oh, I will. Definitely.
It doesn't have a lot of ratings. I don't think a lot of people have actually listened to it, but it's got 5-star ratings. So from the few people that checked it out, but those are all probably like friends and family and fans. So can't take that too seriously.
Yeah. No, it's just one of those, sometimes they go through stages where you write the book, nothing, you hear crickets, and then someone says something about it, and then it blows up. So
boom, yeah. 500 reviews in 3 hours.
Yeah, so that's one of those, that's the moment probably that you're waiting for. Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for taking the time to chat with me. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Yeah, it's been fun. I had a great time talking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're not following Aaron on Facebook, Twitter, or on SoundCloud, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and start clicking on the likes and the follows. And I will add the links to the podcast as well as to the blog, Viviana, Enchantress of Books. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Make sure to follow us on our social media platforms, subscribe to the Viviana Enchantress of Books newsletter, and don't forget to submit your questions of this or that for Shane to answer next time. Happy listening. Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana Enchantress of Books. For links and more info about today's episode or the Audiobook Lovin Series, visit vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. Please consider leaving a review wherever you listen to the podcast if you've enjoyed today's episode. Until next time, happy listening.